So, good morning everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
We will now continue with the understanding of the 10 plagues. Good morning. So you have them. You all have the map of the 10 plagues. Can somebody also put it just in front of the screen? Put it in front of the screen. Put it in front of the screen.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. No, other way around. No, you don't do it like that. No, the other way.
Like that?
In front of the screen.
Yes, like this.
No. Daniel, do you know how to do it? That's right. I think Daniel.
Not sure what you mean.
That way in front of the screen.
But they don't see it like
That's not the screen. This is the camera. This is not the camera. This is the screen. This is the camera. They don't see it.
Oh, except put it the other side, please. What, this way?
you can switch it, yeah.
I know that Elazar always does it that way. That's all I know. Okay. Whichever way. Anyway, I hope you all have a plan of the screen of the plan of the Esa Makot. So, was one of the purposes of the 10 plagues was to demonstrate that God is the master of history. It's His story, His providence of everything. Water.
My.
And also to recognize that Moshe was the true prophet of God. And as it says in the passages about prophecy, that if a prophet predicts what's going to happen, and then afterwards it happens exactly as he said, it is considered a reliable prophet, as long as it fits in with the highest level of prophecy of the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu.
Amen.
So I think in order really to understand the enormous width and depth of the significance of the battle between Moshe and the people of Israel and Paro. Because Paro represents the ultimate evil. It's even used as a mashal, a parable for the power of the Yetzer Hara. Not the Pharaoh of the time of Yosef HaTzadik and Yaakov Avinu, because he recognized both the saintliness of these two as well as the power of their God. However, to understand this whole passage better, we have to go to chapter 15 of Bereshit, which is called the Bris Bein HaBesorim, the covenant between the pieces. And we're here following the classical commentaries, the Midrashim, and especially the commentary of Rav Hirsch. Some say that the 15th chapter of Bereshit was the first vision shown to Avraham Avinu. You'll find it?
Yeah.
on page 14, Jerusalem Bible. At the bottom of the page, where it says, in verse 7, Hashem said to Abraham, I am Hashem who took you out from Ur of the Chaldeans. But there's also a double meaning to Ur. We know Ur has been excavated thoroughly, was the center of Sumerian culture and idolatry. But Ur also means a fire. So Hashem took him out from there. They took him out from there and sent him to the land of Canaan. That's what I took you out from there to give you this land to take it into possession, the land of Canaan. But you also saved his life. Because when Abraham was spreading faith in the one true God, you know he was the iconoclast on a classical level. Iconoclast means somebody who breaks down idols. His father was a manufacturer of idols, probably connected with the worship of the moon and other idols. And as the Midrash describes it, he made fun of his father in a certain way, because he reached the level of recognition of Hashem as the master of the universe. And so when his father was away, he went into the factory of idols and put an axe in the biggest one and destroyed all the others. And he came back, he said, well, you believe in this idol, which is made by hands. And look, it's got an axe in his hand. And when you're away, there was a battle between all of them, so he chopped them all down. In the end, it's likely that his father did a bit of teshuvah, because it's described that he went away from him, also from Ur Kasdim. But this was the revelation of Hashem to Abraham, and then he said to him, Hashem, oh my God, how do I know I'm going to take into possession? So he said to him, take me a heifer 3 years old, and a goat 3 years old, and a ram 3 years old, and a turtle dove and a young pigeon. He took to him all these, divided them in the midst, and laid each half against the other. But the birds he did not divide. And the eagle came down upon the carcasses, and Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, deep sleep fell upon Abram. And lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And Hashem said to Abram, know surely that your seed will be a stranger in the land that is not their own, and they shall act as slaves to them, or they shall enslave them, and they will afflict them for 400 years. And also that nation, whom they will work in slavery, I will judge them, and afterwards they'll come out with great possession. And you will go to your fathers in peace. You will be buried in good old age. But in the 4th generation they'll come back here, to this land of Canaan. For the iniquity of the Amorite, which was probably the largest of the Canaanite nations, is not yet full. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace, and a burning torch passed between those pieces. On the same day, Hashem made a covenant with Abraham, saying, to your seed have I given this land, from the river Egypt to the great river, the river Prat. Then it mentions 10 nations. So there are many, many deeper aspects to understand this chapter. But I'm only going to point out that here there's a prediction, whichever way you take it, of the Egyptian enslavement. It doesn't say which nation will do it. But it appears the plan of Hashem was that in order that there should be a nation that would change the world and allow the world to follow saintliness, follow the divine image in which Hashem created man. When Hashem saw that the first human beings, they followed evil instead of good, 10 generations from Adam to Noah, so he was thinking of bringing a complete destruction upon the world because of their social iniquity and their immorality and their idolatry and their loss and awareness of the master of the world. Then, but nevertheless, the world was saved through Noah. Noah and his family survived the deluge, and then, despite the fact that Shem and Ava, they fulfilled the Noahide code, which was given over to Noah, and which did introduce the seeds of saintliness, at least at the minimum level for all mankind. Nevertheless, it did not have the strength of spreading. It was preserved by Malki Tzedek, Melech Shalem, to some extent. Only when Abraham searched for the truth and came to the realization of Hashem, so Hashem saw, here we've got a personality, through whom mankind is raised to the highest level. Through him, through his descendants. So then we're given a long description of the greatness of Avraham Avinu. And how wherever he went, he called upon the name of Hashem and was one who was constantly doing outreach in every area. They were sent to the most corrupt land of that time, apart from the Babylonian centers, the Sumerian centers, to the Canaanites. And there he was told, an individual can't change the world by himself. The individual nurtures a family, and that family grows into a nation, into a whole group, larger group, and they're all filled with the traditions and the model of Abraham. The world can change. No. It's significant, if you look at this passage, that the promised land here extends from the Nile to the Euphrates, including 10 nations, 10 groups. Whilst later on, when the land was promised to Avraham and his descendants, if they would fulfill the covenant with Hashem, it's limited to 7 nations. And the borders aren't as wide as that. the simple explanation that the seed of Abraham include also Ishmael, not only Yitzchak descendants, also Ishmael's descendants, who also participated in the Brit Milah. There was the potential for Ishmael also to adopt the covenant with Avraham Avinu, this covenant. Now the sages explain, without now going into the detail, which you can read, especially in the commentary of the Ramban, Nachmanides, and the Rav Hirsch, that the various animals and so on, and what happened to them, and the deep darkness that fell upon Avraham Avinu. It was all the concept that here in this vision there was brought together what might happen to the people in Egypt, and if that is very successful, it will already bring that the land will be the eternal possession of the seed of Abraham. And if not, there might be empires, world empires, who would try to destroy the people of Israel. But ultimately, he has given the vision of the future, that even the whole of the Middle East will become those who follow the original covenant of Avraham Avinu, both from Am Yisrael and for Ishmael. Ishmael also carries the name of God in the name of his nation, just like Israel. He also took upon himself the Brit Milah. He also believed in one God, pure spirit. And that time will come. B'Yirtzeh Hashem. But what comes before is terrible suffering, because everything ultimately depends upon the ability of the more particular people of Israel, the descendants of Yitzchak and Yaakov, that they will be true to the true blessing given to Avraham Avinu, and they'll become a kingdom of priests. That means their nation will be a nation that will influence the rest of mankind to keep the Noachide code. If those that don't actually join the priestly nation itself. That's part of this description here. But the suffering is essential. That means if the people of Israel would merit, we wouldn't need the suffering, or the suffering would be very easy. Even at the beginning, that strange land, it could have been with much less suffering. It doesn't even describe here what actually happened in that land of Egypt. Namely, that the boys were killed, and the girls were used for immorality. So, but it says, yes, you'll be strangers, you'll be slaves, and also you'll be tortured, you'll be afflicted. 3 things. So there are 3 elements of the Galut. The first Galut, school of suffering. Why is school of suffering necessary? Because it's the nature of human beings that if everything is blessing, then to give you this in a coarser word by the famous British essayist called Roger Bacon. So he said, I'll quote his words from one of his essays, he says that fortune and wealth does best discover vice, and misfortune and suffering does best discover virtue. That's the nature of human beings. If everything goes well, we're overrun with enormous blessings, then we live a life of luxury and we think this is fantastic. the physical pleasure is so strong and it's given to people in such a manner that they forget they've also got the soul. And they've got to allow their soul to control and channel their physical instincts. They lose their tzelem elokim. They become like animals, as we see happening today. Happened at all times. Therefore, the people of Israel have to go through the suffering, because one of the purposes of being a kingdom of priests is that all those who have possessions, whatever they are, have to hand them over and use whatever they've got to help those who don't have. That's how the world has been made. And that's what preserves the divine image in the human being. Because Hashem is, by His name also, the one who constantly gives blessings. And therefore, anyone who wants to go on the same path as Hashem has also got to use whatever blessings are given for others and not for himself. He needs to look after himself so that he can use his talents and not minimize what is necessary for his own self and his own family, but is obligated, whatever other energies he has, to use them to help other people. Quality of chesed. Now, I think it's many things that happen, we believe happenings are hashgacha. Some people think things just happen, random element, but it isn't so. In fact, I haven't studied directly so much research into what's called coincidence. I know that we do find purposefulness in every aspect of life, and that's been one of the main movements of opposition to the concept of natural selection and evolution, because it's been found the laws of chance are limited, and there's also an element of purpose in every aspect, even on the biological level. There's one of the classical works called Human Destiny by Pierre Dunoy, a French work by a great master of biology and also a great master of the laws of chance. And he says you can't just explain the development of life on the basis of chance elements that take place in natural selection. No, there's purposefulness shown in every aspect of nature. And things that were one at a time considered to have no purpose, with the discovery, constantly, generation after generation, of more vestigious limbs, that meet limbs that don't seem to have a purpose, or any aspect of this world doesn't have to have purpose. We see there's a purpose in everything. Everything fits together, there's enormous harmony and purposefulness and design. So it proves there's a designer, which is recognized by Avraham Avinu. And the same also applies to history. History is his story. So, therefore I say, the fact that what's called the first authorized version, one of the first more widespread ones, called the King James Version, produced under King James in England, of what they call the Old Testament, the Tanakh. This chapter is called the Holocaust. Why do they call it the Holocaust? The Holocaust means cutting up entities. That's the original word. And so this name is also being used to translate the word Shoah. And this is in fact the first mention, because here this prophecy goes through all the history of mankind until the time of the ultimate era, when at least Ishmael will follow the Noachide code, and Am Yisrael will be the Mamlechet Kohanim, and Ishmael will recognize the superiority of Yitzchak, that we are the Mamlechet Kohanim, and then the whole of the Middle East will become the fulfillment of the vision given here, that it will be the power of Avraham Avinu. extended into two groups. And Christians will give up the concept of the intermingling of idolatrous concepts with the one God. And then also their churches will do away with their idols, and they become like the mosques, where a Jew can daven. Namely, the mosques that are built by people who really keep the Noachide code and don't have any image there. Because God is not an image. So, because like this, the whole suffering that comes to the Jewish people is symbolized by the torture fire and the smoking oven. What's the smoking oven doing here? What's it mean? Also, they all say it's a symbol of the ultimate suffering from the world powers against the people of Israel. It's the crematorium. It's the smoking oven. So here we have mention of the Holocaust. But now, that passed between these pieces. But now I'm going to speak about one particular aspect that's mentioned here, which is the form of suffering that these people will have to undergo in the future. There's three levels. This possible so in Hebrew. That's if you look on it's on page 15, Jerusalem Bible, and you look verse Yud Gimel. Hashem said to Avram, Yadoa Teda, you have to know it more deeply. Ki ge yedaracha ve'eretu lahem. Your seed are going to become aliens in a land that is not theirs. Varadum. And that nation, that land in which they'll be, they'll enslave them, venuotam, and they will torture them for 400 years. Next verse, V'gam et hagoy asher yavodu. And also that nation who will enslave them, Don Anochi, I'm going to judge them. And afterwards, the people of God with a great possession. So these verses are reflected in the 10 Makot. Which way? That we have three levels of the Makot, which is spoken about. And the Seder night, after we set on, Tzefadeya, Kinim, accompanied by what? What do we do? Yeah. Some pick up the fingers and the spoon and put it in the wine and drop it on the plate. Why? What's the usual interpretation?
Doing that to remind yourselves of the Makot.
That we, although it turns out that Paro and the people of Egypt, they went through a lot of terrible Makot. And by the way, very interesting, those Makot are described in detail in a papyrus from Egyptian times that was found, called the Ipowa Papyri. And it describes the turmoil that took place in Egypt in terms of the 10 Makot. Egyptians from Emet Me'eret Sitzmach. So if you look at the chart, and you will look here at the threefold division, because when we've said the 10 Makot, we go over them again with the initial letters, the Tzach, Adash, Ba'achab. And we already went through many aspects of this. The first one, go to Paro, first one of each series, go to Paro early in the morning, where he is. Where is he? He's early in the morning he went to the Nile to express that he is the God of the Nile, identifies with him, and he's the God of mankind. And they have to warn him what's going to happen, which plague is going to take place next. In the second one, he goes to his palace. In the palace he says, no, you've got to let my people go free. This is my people, not your. You can't keep them there as slaves. They are my people to fulfill Yavduni, divine service. They've got to do divine service on the highest level. already reflected in the 3rd chapter of Shemot, where Moshe Rabbeinu, in his first revelation, was told that the whole purpose of Am Yisrael coming out of Egypt is so that they would become the people of Hashem at the great revelation of Sinai. And from there, from that time onwards, they would be above all forms of enslavement by other people and become, instead of that, servants of Hashem. Me'avdei Paro, to reach the level of being avadim to the Creator. And then the third one always came without warning. You be given warnings before the first 2 of each series. So now if you look here at the titles of the columns, you will see where there are many columns, as you've already discussed. And now I want you to see here the concepts, the last column. I called it levels of servitude. The ones he described as most is the Kli Yakar and Rav Hirsch. He said like this. So the last column, tells you the 3 levels. It says, what's going to happen to your seed? There'll be strangers, they'll be enslaved, and be tortured. The way in which Hashem punishes, where you can see that this divine hand at work, is measure for measure. Even in private life, let's say, if you find you can't speak so well, there's different things troubling your ability to speak. Yeah, it happens to me. Why does it happen to me? Because I'm not careful enough in my speech. I sometimes say things which I shouldn't say. Say not nice things to other people, not saying things which are avak lashon hara. The person therefore has got to think to himself, why does Hashem send me this? He's sending me to teach me, like I say at the end of the Amidah. I say, God, please protect my tongue from speaking evil. We need divine protection, because often when a person has to deal, especially a person who's got to deal with so many people, with all their problems and so on. So you need to think all the time, whatever I'm going to say now, maybe I don't need to say it. You should never say an extra word, even if you have to say something about another person with regard, let's say it comes to a shidduch. So you've got to give a report. You're the Rosh Yeshiva, you know the bochrim, so they phone you up and say, what do you say about this bocher? So I've got to say and add the truth. On the other hand, I mustn't speak a word of lashon hara. It's not easy. And when you're consulted with so many situations, people ask me about management, whatever it is, sometimes you say unnecessary words. So Hashem gives you a hint, If you're going to talk like that, better you will not talk for a few hours. Don't talk so much. Also sometimes you talk too much and we think, we can say whatever we want. No, but the Torah says you can't say whatever you want. So therefore Hashem says, Midah Keneged Midah. If a person falls, so maybe he was running to do something which was not good at one time or another. So Hashem says, you think you can run? Can't always run. No, got no way of running. So Hashem sends us Midah Keneged Midah, and that's taught all the way through the Tanakh, measure for measure. It does not only apply to the individual, it applies to communities, it applies to the world. Midah Keneged Midah. So here's what also Hashem said in this pasuk in Brit, V'gam et hagoy asher yavod adon anochi. That nation, whichever it's going to be, which is going to enslave the Jewish people, don't think that they'll go free. I'm going to judge them as well. Even though I can predict what's going to happen. The people of Israel must be put through the school of suffering, otherwise they'll think they're a super people. It says in the Chumash even, the Jewish people and Israel, very important lesson for Israel, never say that you are the strongest of people, and your success, be it success in finance, in wealth, your success in battles, any battle, your success in your diplomacy, in your secret service. Never say, Kochi v'otzem yadi asil, never say, my strength and the power of my hand has produced this victory, has produced this victory. If you say that, Hashem says, you're the smallest of the people. You'll punch your midah, connected midah. You'll take away that strength. And you'll see the others, your enemies, will become stronger. If that's what you say. If you come and say it's Hashem, fine. But if you come and say it's me, whatever it is. If you think, I'm a self-made man, yes, self-made, and I've become top of the Forbes list, it might happen the next day, your shares will crash, and you'll become a debtor. It's happened. Very, very interesting. You can even ask the question. One of the richest millionaires in the world, I mean, I think, came to a few brothers whom I knew. I went to yeshiva with them, who went into business, and they became millionaires, multi-millionaires. Yeah? Yeah. You will know, Canadian citizens. So, what did what did they do? They were really big. They were B'nai Torah, and they followed the Gedolim always tried to do their best. And they were well known for their 100% honesty and straightforwardness in all business dealings. And they reached the top. And they helped the Jewish community and the Torah enormously. I remember once they set aside $100 million to go and help all the yeshivas in Israel. We also got in with this. And I knew them personally. All of a sudden, tables were turned and everything collapsed. It happened when they started investing in the wharf in London. They started too much business in London. They were in Canada and the US, but they came to London. I think they may have overdone it or something. And we know, everybody knows Wall Street, the shares, stocks and shares, and companies, the wealth rises and falls. And they lost, not only they lost whatever they had, they became huge debtors and they became bankrupt. But what did they say? They said, we're going to carry on. And they said to all their creditors, we're going to try our best to be able to repay you. Which in bankruptcy you don't always have to do. But they thought, at the highest level of business, a person goes bankrupt and he can still find a way whereby he can get back his previous. That's what they've done. They worked very hard. Baruch Hashem, I think they paid all their creditors. They did that first. For a few years they couldn't help anybody else, only their creditors. And then afterwards they come back a bit. So that if it happens to these tzaddikim, we can say even, but Hashem punishes for who knows the slightest thing. So it is. Or sometimes Yisurim Shalavan, maybe it was to stop them thinking that they had any hand in their success. So so he also, Hashem says in the first vision of Avraham Avinu, don't think that nation that enslaves them, even though I can predict that's what's going to happen, that they themselves are not going to be enslaved. Yeah. So it's three levels. Kiger, Gerut, Avdut, Ve'inui. So you have if you look carefully, it says, in each one of the Tzaf, Atash, Ba'achab, he interprets the first one, the blood, for example, that made, because the waters of the Nile, that was the natural environment of each Egyptian society. And Egyptian sustenance and industry all came from the Nile. So now the Nile was all blood. So they felt, we're not in our own country anymore. We're in a horrifying country, where instead of water there's only blood. So they felt aliens. The next one was Tzfadea. Some say Tzfadea were crocodiles. It's not ordinary frog. It's a frog like a crocodile. And they went into every part of every home. So, in other words, this was real enslavement. I mean, everywhere it was the frogs or the crocodiles who took over Egypt. Not only, of course, they attacked all the animals and so on, they attacked the people as well, non-stop. And also, they had no ability at all to use the animals to help them. And also, obviously, they didn't have the possibility to enslave anybody else. They were themselves like slaves to the crocodiles. Why do I say the crocodile? It says, this special type of Tzfadea, it says in Chumash, he stayed in the Nile. The remnants, they didn't entirely disappear, this plague of these crocodiles. In the Nile they continue. We know the Nile, they're crocodiles till today. So that's afterwards. Now the last one which came without warning was the Kinim, the lice. There came all the animals and came all the humans. And they were constantly trying to cleanse themselves and scratching away their whole body. They're like a torture. So this is, it's a torture. The next level, Arov, when wild beasts took over the whole of the area of Egypt, so again, Egypt could no longer be populated by human beings. Human beings had to lock themselves up in their houses because the wild animals attacked them wherever they went. So this was Geirut, there were strangers in the land. The second level, when the plague came, so the plague also made them slaves because it killed all the animals. Therefore they had to do all the work themselves. They had no help from animals. And that was the plague. It also attacked their bodies. And then came Shechin, the boils. The boils, of course, the boils, they hurt their bodies with personal torture. Then the next three, Barad, Arbi, Choshech, also. Geirut, the hail came, and as a result, people couldn't go out at all. It says they also had to lock themselves in their houses. So they were strangers in their land. Then came Arbe, the locust. That made them slaves. After, because the locust destroyed every part of the crops, wherever they were. Even it said, even the house of whatever food they had, wherever there's food, so the Egyptians, they were like the slaves to the locusts, the plague of locusts. Then came darkness, so that darkness, so they couldn't even get up from their seats, because it was so dark. The darkness was something which was such a thick gas of darkness that they couldn't move. And they went on for 3 days. So this is the level of all these. And of course, and with Makat Bechorot came the death of the main leader of each family. So this is Geirut after the Ve'inu. Gives us another dimension. So, as we will stop at this point, and take any questions or comments. You turn off the... Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.